weekend. We're tracking further updates, this time in the BBC versus Trump drama. The BBC has now issued a formal apology to US President Donald Trump over the 2021 Panorama program that edited his January 6th speech. Remember, Trump's sound bites were spliced together, which were initially more than 50 minutes apart. The broadcaster stated that the edit mistakenly suggested Trump had called for violence but rejected his demand for compensation. British Culture Minister Lisa Nandy has stated that it was right for the BBC to apologise and admit it fell short of editorial standards. The Panorama program, aired ahead of the 2024 US election, is spliced together three parts of Trump's speech, creating the false impression that he encouraged violence during the Capitol riots. Trump's lawyers had threatened a $1 billion lawsuit. The controversy led to the resignations of BBC Director General Tim Davie and Head of News Deborah Dennis. With us on the broadcast is Ms. Alison Mutler, former Associated Press Bureau Chief, who's joining us from Romania. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Of course, there was a lot of talk with regards to what the BBC had done. There was a lot of criticism with regards to the doctored content, the fact that the context was changed, likely to mislead viewers. I want to first talk about what occurred, then I'll come to the apology. Freedom of press is very, very important, but does that really give a license to twist facts, as we've seen in this particular case?
Yes, it's an ethical and almost a philosophical argument. Professional journalism, which the BBC is a professional organisation. It's been around, it's one of the oldest and most respected news organisations in the world, are not allowed to do things like that. Basically, they have distorted what Donald Trump said in their report. And you're allowed to edit for clarity and for brevity to make things clearer for the viewers, but distorting what somebody says for journalistic reasons, as they did in this case, is a clear breach of BBC rules, and they have owned up and said they did wrong. They said they did not do it with malice. I personally believe they didn't do it with malice. They did it to make it seem more exciting, more newsworthy, more tense. But it is a breach of professional journalistic rules and the BBC's own rules.
Indeed, and a quick follow-up to that as well. We've seen several senior BBC presenters, and I'm not going to take any names, but they post out some tweets, many of them double down as well, trying to frame what happened as a sort of coordinated attack that the BBC is facing through political motivations, and even an attack on public service broadcasting at large. Could that have been a bid to divert attention from the core issue of the fact that what we witnessed was a blatant violation of journalistic ethics?
Well, yes, we have two parallel stories, and both are true. As I said in my first comments, this is a breach of professional journalistic conduct in any serious organisation as the BBC. This is completely wrong. But on the other hand, there is an ongoing attack on the media by very senior figures, led by Donald Trump. He started it in his first term in 2016. And this is political point scoring. There's a lot of pressure, particularly from the right wing in the UK, to defund the BBC, to people to stop paying their licenses, because that's how it functions on viewers paying. People have television sets paying their licenses. So there are two parallel stories, and both are true, going on at the same time. There is, for sure, attacks on the BBC, which does have editorial independence, and it is funded by the public. So, yes, both of these cases can be true at the same time.
Indeed. And speaking of this apology that has come forth, do you think Donald Trump could then perhaps, with this public, very formal apology that the BBC has put out, stating that yes, it did in fact make a mistake, could Trump then withdraw his intention of filing a $1 billion lawsuit? Or is he likely to still go ahead in order to prove a point?
First of all, my question is, where would this lawsuit be filed? I assume it would be filed in the United States of America, which is much more protective of press freedom and libel. In Britain, it isn't. Libel, it's very easy for a journalist, a news organisation, to lose a libel case. This isn't libel. He's talking about defamation. but the US gives much more protection to the press. I personally think he wants to make a point. He will consider the full apology a personal victory, but for political reasons, I wouldn't be surprised if he continues the lawsuit, at least for now. I don't think he would have success in the US court because it's a lot of money, and also the BBC has issued an unreserved apology. And there is American law does allow for the protection of free speech and journalists. But for political reasons, he might continue the lawsuit, because to withdraw it at this moment would make him perhaps seem weak to his own voter base.
Absolutely, ma'am. With that, I'd like to thank you for taking out time and, of course, putting all of that into perspective for our viewers. On that note, we're shifting focus to more news coming in. We're now learning that deadly heat worldwide is driving a $300 million